What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Chillporeal. I believe this is episode 36, and with me, I have a very special guest for the very first time on the Chillporeal channel. We have the one and only, the legend of Leo. What's up, man? Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here, and I really like that intro. There's some good clips in there.
Oh,
good sound effects too.
Were you able to recognize the music? It's obviously 8-bit.
I don't, but it sounded a little bit like it could have been like a Super Mario Land.
It was a platformer, yeah. So it's this game was made by Konami. It was an NES adaptation of the TV show Tiny Toons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was listening to it last summer. I was going down memory lane. So Tiny Toons, I got Tiny Toons on the NES for Easter, I think in '93 or something. I think I was in second grade at the time. I wanted actually the Super Nintendo Buster Bust Loose, which to this day I still have not played. And I've said this on other streams. Matt Cave Gaming, his Chillporeal, I bring it up. He knows the track. He's talked about the game himself. What's up, Matt Cave? My dad told my mom to get me Tiny Toons, so she didn't know to get me the Super Nintendo one. So she ended up getting me the NES one instead. So I played that one. The rest is history. And to this day, I still have not played the Super Nintendo one that I won. So
yeah.
So man,
games sit there. That's okay.
So Leo is your dog, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We're gonna get
gotta have a mascot, right?
We're gonna get a special appearance later of Leo with the actual star of the stream.
Possibly. It's a little late right now, and I saw him just pass by the hallway to go to bed, and but possibly at the end. Yeah, we could do that.
So what should I call you? Should I call you Legend? What should I call you?
Oh yeah, Legend for sure. Justin.
Okay. Call me Brian.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you, Justin. So man, thanks for joining me. And before we even get any further, I want to say hello to the chat. So we have DJ Ronnie G. We have Jake D. We have Keely Chow. We have Staple Bow. We have Matt Cave, and we have someone named Angry Canadian. Do you know this guy? I don't think I do. Do we know this guy?
It doesn't seem very angry to me.
No, he's actually one of the nicest people I've met on this side of the internet. So so how I found you, Justin, was through Angry Canadian. I follow him. He's been on my channel several times. Big video game channel. Definitely subscribe to Angry Canadian. And before we even go any further, Justin's channel link is in the description. Hit the subscriber. Let's get him. He's at 595 now. Let's get him to 600 subs.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So Justin, our mutual friend AC basically shared a video that you did, and this one was called Innovation or Replication. And that one really got me thinking. Like you have some, I'm gonna be honest, you have some really well thought out videos. Like you map it, you have good arguments, and you have good reasons to back up what you're saying. So
thank you.
I was curious, what inspired innovation versus replication?
Okay, good question. I think in general, the reason why these ideas come to my mind, and it's like, I'm not going to pretend that every idea is great, that every idea is so cerebral. Some of like the really fun videos, I just wanted to get to know some of the people who are watching my channel. So I did a video, for example, in that same Food for Thought playlist, what are your gaming quirks? And I had mine where it's like, when you play a JRPG, you've got to talk to every townsperson, every NPC. So that playlist has a collection of things like that, a little sillier, a little more relaxed and casual, and also the innovation versus replication, where once I start thinking, I guess the good way to sum it up, again, without sounding pretentious, is kind of the sociology of games. Like, it's not necessarily the games themselves that I want to know and break down and everything. That's done to death. And you and I can talk about some games and enjoy breaking down some of their components a little bit more. But why do people get drawn to certain games? Like, is there something about Ocarina of Time that makes it so many people's number one game as opposed to just gameplay? So innovation versus replication was just another riff on that kind of thinking, where is there something to be gleaned or identified when you look at a long running series and you analyze their track record? Maybe something pops out where they always get those increased sales spikes every time they innovate on the formula, or maybe not. It was just going to be a question. I was just going to look into it, not take it too seriously. And honestly, I can't even remember most of the results, but I kind of remember what the patterns looked like. And fun little video to watch or listen to. I don't mind if people put them on ×2 speed in the background and just listen. At the end of the day, it's kind of something that I want to look into a little bit, not take it too seriously. And then once I've made the video, it's like I've gotten it off my conscience and I can move on to the next idea. So sorry for a little bit long-winded. I tend to be long-winded.
Thanks for sharing that, man. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, like like I actually I'm with you on innovation. So like, I mean, and you showed the data, you showed the sales of the games, and I know you split up now. Like, I'll say this, like, I don't think I know anybody better at statistics than you. You just really, you know how to break everything down. Like you had graphs for genre, which I'm going to ask later how you break down the genre, because there were some genres I didn't even recognize in your breakdown. But like you for this one we talked about sales. So I think innovation is a thing, and especially for Breath of the Wild, which we will talk about later. I mean, I'm pretty sure based on my comments on your videos, you know how I feel about about the open world. So we'll talk about it now. I'm not going to be, it's not going to be heated or anything like that. That's not what I do. So, but like but going into the innovation part, like, when you say innovation, you mean like, is it totally innovative? Like, or is it something that basically borrows from another genre? So like, for instance, Breath of the Wild with the open world. Now there are new things that they did take from earlier open worlds, but like I think the big difference was like, it was just like a combination of open world and mechanics that Zelda had in the first place, like, the fighting, the Z targeting that started in Ocarina of Time. I'm just curious, when you say false innovation, what exactly do you mean? Is it basically there are new things that are adapted to older mechanics or something? Is it just like a refurbished deal instead of it being like brand new?
Yeah, so this was one of the most fun things to kind of spring forth from thinking about this video. And actually, it came to me, I was talking to another Zelda fan on one of his own interviews. Do you mind if I say his name?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So his channel is Majora T. You can see he likes Majora's Mask. And so we kind of had that in common and Zelda in common. And at the end of our little, you talk about Zelda, I talk about Zelda, that's when this kind of, what are these? Like, what is Nintendo doing? Are they innovating or not? And I thought about the Pokemon Company for the perfect example of this false innovation, because it seems like they're changing a lot for the player. And then when you actually play the games, for example, when you get to Sun and Moon from X and Y, it's like, hey guys, look at this brand new adventure where you're not doing the 8-badge gym challenge, and there's no Elite Four, and there's this and this. I mean, there was an Elite Four, but there wasn't an Elite Four. That is one where they just mess it up a little bit. But in effect, you're playing the same game. So, and maybe they Pelago mechanic, but that's just another accessory to the game. It's not actually changing the core components. At the end of the day, Pokemon, you're running around a big world, open fields, you're catching Pokemon, training Pokemon, breeding Pokemon, and battling Pokemon. And that has not changed. So I feel like, just to touch on Zelda really quickly, Breath of the Wild at least changed the formula. And we can go back and forth a little bit to see because it's interesting finding out what do other people consider innovation, false innovation, glitz and glam, smoke and mirrors, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a tough one because it seems like everybody has kind of copied each other over the years and have implemented things that have already been established in earlier games. So like even something like Breath of the Wild, I feel like it's just been it's an amalgamation of so many different ideas, along with once again its own mechanics. And even stuff from Skyward Sword, like some stuff carried over from Skyward Sword, like for instance the stamina meter. And I don't remember, but wasn't the glider also in Skyward Sword as well?
I think it felt similar enough. I think they liked the flying portion of Skyward Sword when you're on the bird, and they thought, this is really cool. Can we keep it in the game somehow? That's probably how the glider came to be.
By the way, I was watching someone play Pal World. That game is such a what's the word for it's such a plagiarized game. Like they like not only did they copy the open world aspect and the glider from Breath of the Wild, they when you encounter a place of interest where you can fast travel, they even add the same exact type of jingle, the musical jingle, do 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 do, with the piano. I'm just like I'm like Picard. I'm like this. I'm like, seriously, but that's neither here nor there. So okay. I don't know if you played Pale World. I didn't play it myself. I've watched other people play it.
I'm not interested in it. I saw what the game is. It's basically a mashup of Frankenstein of like Fortnite and Pokemon, and I can't call it GTA, but just one of those crafting games, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I figure this was a great way to introduce you. So I figured let's go back in time. So let's go back in time to how you got into video games in the first place. Like, why is it a passion? I mean, I watched your video of your collection, how you got into NES. So apparently you were running around your basement when you were young, and you said, I'm free, right? Or you
Yeah, I was finally released from my shackles and allowed to play video games. Thank you, parents. No, just a good third birthday, which is when my most crystallized video game memory, my first one, really. But yeah, thank God I had a couple of parents who, even if they weren't necessarily into video games, I mean, I've never actually sat down and talked with them about it. Like, was there a gamer back then? It was a cool thing, I suppose. I know my dad used to go to arcades and he enjoyed playing pinball, so maybe that's where I got my interest in pinball from too. I'm sure that's genetic. And I had a hand-me-down NES, and it was just as much a family activity to sit in front of the old CRT as it was to like watch The Simpsons or watch some Disney VHS or anything like. And I was just talking to my brother and my father about that. Oh, did I freeze?
You did freeze for a second. I was like, no, but you're good now. You're good now.
Yeah, so Canadian internet's the best I can do for you. So it costs an arm and a leg just to have it be like this.
Yeah, exactly. So NES. So you said hand me down NES. So the NES was in your family even before you were around and all that. Okay, that's very interesting. Did your parents already own the games that you had in that collection? I'm assuming that the collection that you have in your video is stuff that you had since you were a kid.
Yep, that's right. Because we never purchased anything for older consoles. So like if we had moved on to the Nintendo 64, we weren't going to the stores and looking for some retro NES games. It was just whatever we had at the time. Great, played games over and over and over again. Sometimes go and rent a few for the later consoles. That was it. And if you want to go in chronological order, I actually just remembered something about the SNES, a little detail.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is my family's lore. Because it was my mother and my father who had the NES, I think that's one of the reasons why my aunt and uncle, my mom's sister, got the Super Nintendo, the SNES. I think.
Oh, so your extended family had the Super Nintendo.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, since you the Super Nintendo is completely missing from your collection, what did you play back in the day?
What would it have been? It went from NES in the early 90s to the Game Boy Colors in the mid 90s, and then the Nintendo 64 without really taking a break. Yeah. So it didn't even feel like I missed anything.
What games did you play on the Super Nintendo?
When I would go over to their house, I would play Mario Paint #1. Try to get set up with that little dinky plastic mouse pad.
And you
Call it a mouse pad.
swat the flies,
Best
swat the
game.
fly game.
Best game ever. Oh yeah.
Then making your own music. That's all I remember from Mario Paint.
Have you seen that there's a niche? I mean, I guess it's niche, kind of underground. There's oh god, what's the word? A community of people who make Mario Paint music online.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Oh, I
like
remember
people have
diving
made some
back into that.
people have made some insane stuff with the Mario Paint. I don't know how they do it. I don't know
The
how they do it.
software now, kind of like a reprogrammed software to run on browsers. They give you all the tools that you need to let your songs run for longer. I think you can change the tempo a little bit more. So yeah, if any budding musicians are here, go try the Mario Paint sound set and see what you can make.
I've heard like you just look up any song. I'm sure you can find like any pop song and look up Mario Paint, and you'll likely find it.
Tons of rock, tons of Queen and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, okay. So going back to the NES, I was looking at your collection, and I swear I've played every. I swear I've either owned or rented, mainly rented every game that you have. So like Beetlejuice, for instance, I rented it once, didn't get very far. I didn't know what to do half the time, and that was a nightmare.
Yeah. I have to wonder with some of those games, I was just kind of born into them and playing them properly and using the right Game Genie codes for them. But I don't know before me how much time my brother would have spent tinkering with the games. He's 6 years older. Would he have found any resources anywhere? I don't know. But yeah, it's funny seeing some of these NES games that, to me, they're not necessarily beloved, but I still cherish them a little bit as a kid. And then you have someone like the Angry Video Game Nerd. He's made episodes on pretty much every single NES game I have, tearing it to shreds.
Oh yeah. Like he, I didn't know who he was until after I graduated college, which was, I think, when he was at the height of his popularity. One of my friends introduced me. He's like, "Yo, you love this guy," because he talks about old school NES games, your era and all that. And I was watching him talk about, like, there was one particular game, and I've brought this up several times. The one game I owned that I never beat was called Fester's Quest. It was basically reason why my parents bought me that game. They bought me that game along with Zelda 2 for Christmas, I think 1990 or something. Right after I got original Zelda. I was 6. Nice. I was 6 at the time. So yeah, it took me years to beat original Zelda and Zelda 2. But Fester's Quest, I've never beaten to this day. The only reason why I know how it ends is because of YouTube. So I didn't for almost 2 decades. I had no idea how that game ended because it got to a point where I couldn't it got to a point where I didn't know how to continue a game because let's just say you're supposed to go into a building in order to access a boss, and then you exit another side of the building, so you can't access that other side. And for some reason, the game that I had would not let me go back into the building after you get game over and you saved and all that. So I just would either start from beginning, or I just give up. And I've tried multiple times.
What a disaster! Oh God.
Yeah. So one of these days I'll have to stream it and try to beat it. But that's a ways away. So that was a game I had. I had all the Marios. I had Mario 1, 2, and 3. Donkey Kong Classic. So I first played Donkey Kong on the NES, not on the arcade. So that version had only had 3 levels. It had the initial level. You're going up the construction site.
Have them all memorized.
Yeah, and then you had the one where you had the bouncing. I don't know what those bouncing things were.
Little springs.
Yeah, the springs, the bouncing springs. Yeah. And then they had the final one, which I think was just you had to basically
like a construction site. I think.
Yeah, It was a blue construction site. You had to basically. Take apart all the links, and then Donkey Kong would fall, and then that's the end of level 1. Then you repeat it for level 2. I only got up to level 5 or level 6 before before it just got too hard for me to.
That's impressive. 15 maps you cleared then.
Yeah, pretty much. Wow. Yeah, it's nuts. And then Donkey Kong Jr., same thing. Maybe I got to level 7 for that one. That one was a little bit easier in my opinion. So, but I had those. I had the Zeldas. Tetris was one that, like, it was really cheap back in the day. So I think someone bought it and just gave us Tetris. And so my mom played it. My dad used to play the Marios. My mom used to play Tetris briefly. And then they lost interest in video games altogether. And so ever since then, ever since like within the first couple of years of owning it, that was pretty much my stuff after that. So, but yeah, so like Tetris, you know, love Tetris. The DuckTales. I rented DuckTales. I rented Mickey Mousecapade. You have Mickey Mousecapade. Yeah. I remember one day I went to church. Because we used to rent games on the weekend. If you know, my parents were in the mood and, you know, they had the money, we'd go to the video store and rent stuff. I always rented the game. My parents always rented a movie and stuff. Mickey Mousecapade was one of the games I rented. It was the first Mickey Mouse game I ever played. And I remember, like, you have Minnie Mouse following you, kind of like, you know, way Zelda follows Link and A Link to the Past and all that. And if she dies, you die, and you shoot stars. Stars are your main weapon and all that. I played it years later, emulated, and I don't know how I got as far as I did when I was a kid. Like, it is tough. Like, it's impossible to dodge some of the stuff that the game throws at you. That's
one
crazy.
That I'm going to look forward to going back to that one, because a couple people commented on it when I did that video, and I'm just thinking, this was a pretty good game when I played it, wasn't it? We'll see.
By the way, everybody, if you're new here, go hit the link in the pinned chat and go to Legend of Leo's YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button and watch some of his content. So,
Thank you.
All right. So, I love the NES stuff that it made me. It just brought me back to it just brought me back to when I was younger and all that. So my days. So, so I got a question. Do you have a favorite? Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, it is funny when you mentioned, your dad's the one who played the Mario games and your mom's the one who played the Tetris games. That was the same for me, with the parents having their interests. Yeah, so the original Super Mario Brothers, both of my parents played that one, you know, because at 89 was when everybody pretty much, there was a big influx and like they were really trying to sell. I think that was one of the best years of the NES. So my parents bought it. It came with the orange. So the original NES, when it came out with a gray zapper, you know, gray, you know, light gun. I don't know which one you have, but I'm assuming you have the orange one. Yeah, the orange one. That was the later. That was the first later one packaging. Was too realistic. It was more realistic, yeah, because of the gray color and all that. But back in the day in Japan, they had light guns that looked just like guns, like literally, like back in. So it's nuts, like what they had to do to change it. So, where was I going with this? Oh, but yeah, like that. So, like my folks got the system because they wanted to try it out, and it ended up just like I said. I thought it was a new type of cartoon because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Donald Duck. I used to. The earliest thing I knew how to work was the VCR at the age of like 2 or 3 years old. Yeah. So because every morning I want to watch my Donald Duck and my Donald Duck fix and all that. So, so when I saw like, you know, Mario and all that, I thought it was like a new type of cartoon. Like I didn't know you actually interface with that. So I was just like, what is this? And then then my parents, like I had ADD. I was in special ed when I was a kid. So I didn't really pay attention. I had a hard time, you know, learning stuff. And so there was one time where my parents had to scream at me to play Nintendo games. So wow, yeah. What's weird is I still remember that. But like my mother would try to play Super Mario Brothers, and she was trying to run to jump on top of the level 1, 2. You know, level 1, 2, where you have the bricks on top. You try to get on top, you know, to get the extra life. Yes. My mother used to do this. Like she tried to use motion to do that, and I'm like, I think about that now, and I find it so funny because Wii Motion and accelerometer stuff, I mean, is now a thing. Like you actually you can use motion to input control and all that. But that's what happened. And my dad got up to level 2, 3. That's one where the Chiefs are flying out of the. You're on the bridge and you have to run, and the Chiefs are flying out. Right. They could never beat that. Once they got to the 3 platform, the final obstruction, which was the 3 platforms, 3 small little platforms floating. You have to, you know, slow down and jump across them. Folks could never get past that. Just that was their death zone. You know what? I have to say, no matter how many years you have under your belt with gaming, like even I find myself was trying to just beat the Mario Kart courses not too long ago, and every now and then I lean into something a little bit,
Yeah.
and I catch myself and I go, "What am I doing?"
Which Mario Kart was your first Mario Kart? Was it 64?
I think I played 64 somewhere. I didn't own it. I can come up with a few friends who may have owned it, but the DS one was the first one that I owned, and that caught on like wildfire. Yeah,
that's actually a really good one. I like the retro cups that I think that game started.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the game's history and lore and the different iterations, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the original Mario Kart, you're one player in a kart. You didn't pick what kart. It was just you picked the player you played, and you picked the CC, the level CC that you wanted to do, and that was pretty much it. And all the NPCs, went in a very similar path in Super Mario Kart, and then Mario Kart 64 was different, and it was interesting because once again I played the first one first, and then I actually went into 64 expecting the same thing, and it was not the same thing. You couldn't predict what the NPCs were going to do in that one. So, and it was always different, and that's what made that game like one of my top for the N64. Like
different but better. Okay, good.
Yeah. So Super Nintendo era goes by. I mean, have you played any of the games on Super Nintendo, like Yoshi's Island, Super Mario RPG, Link to the Past? No, you haven't played. Okay, that explains. Now, I remember you did you said something about Donkey Kong, and you said you weren't really into it, and I think after watching the video, I kind of understand now, because a big part of why I like it, why I think a lot of people like the later the Wii Donkey Kongs is because of the nostalgia, which is something you bring up in that innovation video. So
that's a funny one to me though, because my memories of Donkey Kong Country are so few and far between. I'm pretty sure they're all relegated to just one single summer vacation. We go to Greece. We're with my grandmother over there. Across the street are my cousins, and they have the Super Nintendo, and they've got one of the Donkey Kong Country games. That's where I became familiar with Rambi the rhino and whatever the swordfish's name is and all those other characters. But and I know that I liked the game. For whatever reason, it's not one that I went back and replayed, Donkey Kong Country. And so I was just thinking, okay, people love Tropical Freeze. It's got to feel just like Donkey Kong Country, but better. And I think I was always waiting for it to click a little bit like it used to. And I'm not sure why it didn't, unless I just didn't play enough of Donkey Kong Country to actually understand the game.
I mean, honestly, like, it's very different. The returns in Tropical Freeze are very different from the original Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Countries. Like the I mean, they use some of the same mechanics, but like it's the controls are different. The just the fact that you have environments that are crumbling around you and all that, that's a new thing. That wasn't in the early games. All it was just, the fun part of Donkey Kong Country was, jumping from vine to vine or bouncing off of, flying bad guys. Like,
that's a key word.
Yeah, bouncing was the thing. All you had to do was hold the button on the Super Nintendo one to be able to boing, boing, boing. In Tropical Freeze, you have to time it. You have to time the bouncing. You have to time the jump button or the bounce button in order to bounce off of it. Or you just go boom, like that, and that's it.
Did you use Cranky Kong though at all?
I have. I mean, I'll be honest. Between Cranky Kong and Shovel Knight, I'm just like, how many more times are they going to copy DuckTales?
Yeah, Cranky, I thought, broke the game. So he was that kind of cheesy way to get through the levels. You saying bouncy, that is one of the things that is missing. When I picture Donkey Kong Country and I try to remember it, the way that the platforms are arranged, it kind of reminds me of like a Genesis, like an X-Men arcade game, the way that the platforms are, or like a Contra, where you have maybe 3 different levels, but on the same screen height, and the screen's not necessarily going to pan for you. And then it feels like they just took the same kind of concepts as Donkey Kong Country, but they expanded them all. They stretched them all out for Freeze because they could make the game bigger. So now you're going up and the screen moves with you. And I think something was lost there, maybe kind of the compactness of Donkey Kong Country made it a little more fun. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be what it is. I mean, one issue that I do have with Tropical Freeze is that they reuse a lot of there's a lot of barrel riding. There's a lot of rocket barrel riding levels, and I'm just like, I get it. They're tough, but how many of these are you going to do? I mean, I just want to run around and bounce across chasms and slide. Like the one thing I like that they added was the zip line. They had a fun little zip line mechanic. I thought that was great. But I like those. I like those where you're not quite in control. It's like a rail, and you have to dodge things and all that. Minecart. I mean, they abused the minecart. Like there was only one minecart level in the original Donkey Kong Country, but in these games they abused the system. I'm like, okay, we get it. You guys, yeah, you guys want to make it tough, so you make these type of levels. Great. So I mean, I'm still waiting for a third one, or I'm still waiting for another entry. But since Retro Studios was the one that worked on it, which was a surprise, like I did not expect Retro Studios to be the one that would continue the series that Rare started and all that. So,
do you know anything about that with maybe what could come with the next Donkey Kong, or why it might be held up?
I think the only reason why it's held up, or the reason why they haven't made any, is because Retro Studios is working on Metroid Prime 4. So originally they didn't work on it. I'm assuming after Tropical Freeze, the Retro was working on a different project, and I'm guessing that kind of went by the wayside. And when they reconvened to do Prime 4 in 2019, they've been doing that ever since. So I don't think Nintendo found another developer to continue Donkey Kong. At least I don't think. I don't know. Like I was surprised that they got Mercury Steam to continue to make 2D games. Like them announcing, a remake of Metroid 2 from the Game Boy for 3DS. I was like, whoa. And then Dread, I was aware of Dread since Prime 3, because if you read enough of the lore in Prime 3, they talk about Project Dread. They talk about Project Dread, and it's underway. And this was, I think, Retro Studios' way of kind of teasing that project.
Cool.
Yeah, and then nobody said, there was no word on it for years, and then we find out years later that Yoshio Sakamoto, the producer of the 2D Metroids, said we didn't have the mechanic that we needed for this at the time, so that's why they waited for the Switch, especially with those I think with those robots that chase you and all that.
That is pretty sophisticated, I guess.
So I think that was why they didn't release one. So
very cool.
So now that Dread came out, and I think it kind of put the cap on that story, I'm curious what they're going to do in the future. But speaking of Metroid, I don't know how many of the 2D ones you played, but I know your favorite is the first Prime, right?
Yeah, Prime 1. When I eventually go back to the Metroid games, I'm wondering if I'm going to go all the way back to the NES, because I got a taste of it. I don't know if many people are aware, but on the 3DS, there's a very fun game called NES Ultimate Remix. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a mashup of a bunch of short bites of the classic NES games: Metroid, Zelda 1 and 2, Kirby, Ice Climbers, you name it. You get to play them in these really action-packed 5 to 20-second levels with unique challenges that they've handcrafted for the game. And so I really liked Metroid when I played it there. I have a couple of the high scores, I think. That and Zelda too. Yeah.
That I played that too. I had it for Wii U. They came out with NES Remix 1 and NES Remix 2. So NES Remix 1 had I think all the games that came out in 85 and 86. And then Remix 2 had all the games that came out in 87 and after that. So like Zelda 2 and I don't know if Metroid was part of Remix 2 or Remix 1. It's probably Remix 1. So
I have it in Ultimate Metroid. So.
But it to me, that's the ultimate. Like, you want to have I didn't have a chance to play it with people, but it's a fun party game. Just you're feeling nostalgic. Bring your friends out. Play some like challenges and all that.
Yep.
Like I'm trying to look for different challenges for retro games, and there's ways to find them. Like for instance, Super Mario Brothers. I know a lot of
Hey,
people
Mario.
you say Mario, Matt Cave says Mario, so
Well,
I kind of do. I like to make fun of everyone who says
I
Mario
don't
like
know
that.
what
But
Matt Cave is, but I know the Mario thing's a Canadian thing and a British thing. And but at this point, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's like a coin flip of how you pronounce it.
yeah. So
I'm conscious of how you say it though. So the first time on the stream tonight, I said Mario. I don't know if you caught that.
you did,
I
yeah,
did
that's
that for
right.
you.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's so nice of you.
Yeah. Now I'm reverting though.
But going back to remix, like playing some of the stuff was tough. Like
Yeah.
I played Punch Out. I was playing like the some of the challenges from Punch Out. I beat Kid Icarus for the first time with the remix. Oh my gosh,
Nice.
Medusa's a nightmare. I don't know how people can beat that game normally.
Yeah. Well, I thought that Zelda 2 was going to be a lot easier because I took to the game so well in the small challenges, and then I tried playing Zelda 2, and it was a disaster, both me and the game. So,
So did you beat Zelda 1 and 2?
I mean, yeah, I beat Zelda 1 a little bit more fairly, and Zelda 2, I cheated every way possible.
How'd you cheat?
You plug in this Game Genie code and that Game Genie code, and you boost your
Oh,
health, and you you basically trivialize the game just because you're so frustrated with it, and you go, how long to beat Zelda 2? And you see, oh my god, really? It's that many hours? I've only been playing for a few? Okay, forget it.
so AC actually was having a difficult time playing Zelda 2. So I was free, so I was his coach. I was his Mickey from Rocky. I was coaching him, training him to get through the game proper and all that. So he actually beat Dark Link. Because Dark Link is the main villain at the end of Zelda 2.
I saw the little clip. Yeah, it was funny.
He did not cheat. He did not go to the corner of the screen and just jab.
That's not cheating. That is just abusing a little something in the programming. Like this is really funny, a bit of an oxymoron. I legitimately cheated by uploading the codes for Game Genie. But yeah, Dark Link, I just got lucky because I went to the corner, not wanting to get hit, and it turns out you can stab him a lot. I think that's discovered. That's not cheating.
Yeah, that's okay. Fair enough. Like I discovered that I didn't even know about that when I first played it. I'll tell you, original Zelda and Zelda 2, I beat years after I beat A Link to the Past. So I got A Link to the Past when it came out. I had the first two Zeldas before that, but I didn't know how to beat Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 until maybe like a year before Ocarina came out. So I was in 7th grade when I finally figured out how to beat those two games.
And you're doing everything legitimately.
Yeah, there's no internet.
That's insane.
There's no internet. There's no YouTube. I didn't know, and I didn't know anyone that played these. I was a fan because I loved the games. I wasn't a fan because I knew people that played them, and nobody introduced me to them. I mean, my folks were the ones that kind of fostered that me liking Mario. They kept buying the Mario games as they came out. I mean, I saw the Mario live action movie when it came out. Which is not for kids. I watched that movie. I showed my friend Prophet the Dragon. I showed his kids who are, grew up with, the Wii and the Wii U and all that and the Switch. They're like, this movie sucks. I'm like, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Have you seen the Mario live action movie?
No, I haven't gone back and watched any of that. I haven't watched the Zelda cartoon. I haven't watched live action Mario. No.
Oh, you have to see the Zelda cartoon. The Zelda cartoon is fantastic.
I've seen a lot of the memes at this point.
Well, excuse me, Justin.
I didn't know he said that so many times. Like the writers had a lot of fun with that.
Every episode, he says, "Excuse me, princess."
Oh wow!
I literally kept track when I watched it again when it came on DVD when I was in college.
Yeah.
I was like, no way. They did that. They did.
Yeah.
But yeah, the old. Go ahead.
Well, just you've impressed me here because you told me just before we turned the stream live that gaming's not necessarily your main thing. So you love all kinds of media, and yet I'm still not able to get over the fact that you beat the first two Zeldas legitimately. So you're a bit of a god gamer. You're like this sleepy, talented gamer.
No, I'm not. You're buttering me up. You're buttering me up.
It's like this guy doesn't even devote all his time to video games, and he just picks up Zelda 1 and 2.
Well, when I was a kid, that was my when I was a kid, that was my babysitter. I used to like. I only owned a handful of games. I used to play the crap out of them like all the time. I don't know if you had the NES, you know exactly what it's like trying to turn a game on. You have to blow into the cartridge. It's like a 1 in 50 chance.
Yeah.
Like, you know how long? I think the longest it took me to operate the NES, it took me 2 hours to try to get it to freaking work one night, because I wanted to play Zelda 2. And it just kept going gray, white. The LED would on, off. Sometimes sometimes the LED would not blink, but the screen would be white. Yeah. So it was either those two things. The blinking was worse, in my opinion. Like you didn't want to see the blinking and all that. So
I don't know if this is folklore, but I like how you can allegedly have different controller inputs. Like, oh, I'm going to plug my controller into slot 2, and that might make the system turn on differently this time. And we had two cheat devices. One was Game Genie, and one was an off-brand. And, you know, depending on which cheat device you had attached to your cartridge or no cheat device, you could get the console to possibly boot up a different way. Like, again, I don't know if this is folklore, but we would go through these cycles of trying different controller slots and cheat devices, and whichever one struck it, that's how we would play.
I don't know. Maybe, you know, what's weird was whenever I had the second player plugged in, it didn't work. When I took it out, sometimes it worked. Sometimes. So maybe you're right. But you know what's weird, that everybody knows the blowing the cartridge. Yeah. You know that? Yeah. That was one way to do it. Another way that my dad used to do it, he used to just kind of jerk the cartridge. You know how, like, when you have the NES, you push down on it, you push down on it, then it would release, then you pull it out. Well, you push down on it and you just kind of wiggle it in the cartridge, and then press down on it to lock it up again. It worked sometimes. I don't know why, but maybe it was the way it was positioned in the system, the way the cartridge was positioned in the system, that kind of caused the issue too. I honestly have no idea, but it worked.
Yeah, the hardware, and I've never studied electrical engineering or anything like that too much, but I don't even know if, like, the horizontal design was the worst thing that they could have done for it. Maybe it would have had more longevity if they did top loader. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember if the Famicom was input the same way.
As far as I know, also, the only reason why they changed it was just to be different. Like, that was basically localization in the past. It was just, well, we need it to be different in North America.
Yeah.
Crazy how far things have come.
Yeah, so the NES was always an issue operating it. Super Nintendo, way better. Like, if you want to call it quality of life, just to turn on the damn game, you know, it was a massive improvement. Like, it was very rare that I would have issues with it. It wasn't until the system. The only issue I had with the Super Nintendo, and everybody had this issue, was that the Super Nintendo was like a very light pink that it always yellow up. If anyone that had a Super Nintendo, it always turn yellow with age. Oh no. Yeah. So I think, I don't think mine had that issue, but my system eventually, my NES and my Super NES eventually broke, and I couldn't use them. So I don't have those, and I don't have the games I used to have anymore. I sold them to years ago. I sold them to like a game shop or maybe it was a GameStop. I don't even remember.
Yeah. After the consoles broke, you decided I don't need them if I don't have consoles.
Yeah, because when the Wii came out, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can actually play games without having to worry about operating them. So like the Wii Virtual Console, like it was so nice. I could play Legend of Zelda without having to deal with all the BS of the system. You know how refreshing that was when the system came out?
Well, it was a little. It felt like a bit of a revitalization for my brother and I, because even though I didn't want the Wii, at that point I was already moving on to PC gaming somewhat, and I was really happy with how the GameCube was for me. Had a nice big collection, and at this point, I started to wise up to the price of games a little more as well. I was expected to buy my own games for the GameCube, or at least half of them. And so the Wii, I was a little bit disconnected from, and my brother being 6 years older, it's a given that he would have been as well. But then the Virtual Console meant that we can go back, and it's like, hey, we'd never owned Star Fox 64. We can get it here. So we got Star Fox 64. We never owned Super Mario World. Hey, let's get that game. So that was really fun. And yeah, I mean, a lot of reasons why that was good. I guess I'll just focus on the fraternal aspect for now, even though we were talking about the games. Every now and then that I play a game for the channel or I make a particular video, I can share that with my brother. And even though we are so many decades now removed from when we got into gaming, it's nice to kind of go back a little bit, reminisce on certain things. I hear Fendrana Drifts right now. If I played this for him and be like, hey, do you remember this game? He'd probably make a space pirate sound back at me because we loved Metroid Prime. Yeah. Anyways, had to go on that tangent.
I hated like I love the soundtrack to Metroid Prime, but there were a couple of tracks that used to annoy me because of how frequently they were played. So whenever the space pirates attacked, when they're flying in, yeah, so it gets annoying after a while. But what was the most annoying track? When the ghosts attack you, the Chozo ghosts attack you.
Is
later,
that
the later
Corruption or something? Oh, that's in 1 as well.
No, it's in 1. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even remember.
It's that one. It's an annoyingly maniacal track, and it gets annoying when you have to, because like I'm trying to get to go from point A to point B, and these ghosts always respawn, and like the room gets dark, and then they play this music, and I'm just like, I don't want to hear this music. Stop playing this music. Other than that, Metroid music is solid. Other than that, that's like the only track I don't ever want to hear again for the rest of my life.
Fair enough. I wouldn't either. You know what? God, it's such a unique soundtrack. And I don't know if you can recall the title theme right now. It's got those crunchy sound effects, like right, kind of like plasma, phase-on kind of sound effects, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then in the background, it's a weird experimental ambient type of track. And this is gonna, in no way can you necessarily relate to this, but one of our banks that we have to get on the phone with all the time, their wait music is basically like that Metroid Prime title screen.
Oh yeah.
So I don't mind putting that on speakerphone and actually having it turned up because it sounds like the title screen.
That's awesome. I got a question for you. How did you feel? Oh, by the way, this guy right here, he likes Prime 2 more than Prime 1.
Oh, weird. That's my least favorite of the trilogy. Or no, maybe Corruption. I don't know.
Really? I mean, okay. That was gonna be my next question. How do you feel about the sequel? So my favorite's 1 of the Prime games. It's 1, and then 3, and then 2.
I mean, I don't mind whether people do 1, 2, 3 or 1, 3, 2. I don't even mind if they do 3, 2, 1. It doesn't matter. But for me, it breaks down with 1 being the best and the most memorable, 2 just not living up to every standard that 1 set, and then 3 being a little bit forgettable. And I'm not sure why. Maybe I was contending with the Wii controls. Like for Twilight Princess, that didn't bother me. For Skyward Sword, I actually enjoyed Skyward Sword with motion controls. So I'm not sure if that necessarily would have been a reason for Prime 3. Who knows? Maybe it was just too much of the same thing. I don't know.
I'll say when Prime 2 came out for GameCube, that game was tough. Like the difficulty was up there compared to the first Metroid. I think the Metroid Prime trilogy release with the motion controls improved the quality of life. So when you fight the Queen Ing boss, and then you have to escape, and then you have a time limit, and then you fight Dark Samus at the very end. When there was one time I lost to Dark Samus, and I was just like, I am not going through Queen Ing again, and I think I stopped playing for like at least a couple weeks, and then I came back to it, and I was able to beat it. But replaying it on the Metroid Prime trilogy, if you die to Dark Samus, you don't have to play
do that
Queen
fight.
again. It auto saves. So I thought that was a great thing. And I don't know, the game felt. I still like the game. It had a more it had a more horror aspect to it.
Yep.
But like the thing that I don't know how you feel about it. What did you think of like having an entire like it's basically the Dark World from A Link to the Past, basically. A world has two. A world either has two dimensions, and one of them is normal, and the other one is poison. I mean, what do you think of? What did you think? Oh yeah, AC is AC has to bring up multiplayer too.
Hey man, if you had people to play the multiplayer with that I didn't even know exists, that's awesome. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I actually thought the GameCube controls for Prime were rough. I'm curious what they're going to do with Prime 4 on the Switch. So there's a rumor that Prime 4 is going to come out this year. But then again, there's been rumors every year that Prime 4 was going to come out that respective year. So, I mean, the thing with Retro Studios, because a lot of the people that worked on these original games, went on to either start their own studios or they went on for better paid jobs. Yeah, it was 2007. I mean, it's been 17 years. I mean,
yeah.
So a lot of the people left, and all the new people that work there, they don't know how to build a Metroid game. Like a Metroid game, I think requires a special type of skill, special type of design, a video game design skill, and that's why I think Prime 4 is taking forever. Because they're building a new engine for it, I think. But I think it's also they're trying to teach new developers how to do it. So that's why I think it's taking longer than usual. And then they're desperately searching for additional help. Like if you go to Retro Studios' website and look at their careers, they're always hiring like software engineers, they're hiring programmers, they're hiring artists. So yeah.
Hey, see people, AI is not taking every job yet. Come on.
Yeah, so whoever worked on Prime 4 before them, like they did a really bad job. Like I forget the Nintendo president's name that succeeded Kimishima, but he's
Iwata?
just Iwata. No, Iwata was before him. I'm talking about the current president. Yeah, I never remember his name. He looks. I mean, he has the same charm as Iwata. Well, not the same charm, but he looks like he could have the same charm as Iwata. Nobody can match Iwata. I love Iwata. I felt really bad when he passed away. Like I didn't even realize how sick he was. So, but going back, what was I
Macdonald.
Norm. What about Norm Macdonald?
I didn't even know he was sick.
Oh yeah, that just came out of nowhere. So,
well, that's also one of his jokes. But anywho,
that's
another direction to take this comedian's comedy. Whew.
But yeah, so are you gonna play Prime 4 when it comes out?
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to get a Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be. Nintendo's annoyed me a little bit, and it was a bit of an expensive venture to expand my Switch collection as far as I did. That was partly because of the channel. It was partly because I'm typically a fairly cheap person, and I don't buy too many things for myself. Like even what you see on the bookshelf there.
Yeah.
The two plushies adorning it, like those were gifted to me. Otherwise, I'm not running out, and I'm not a big merchandise type of guy. But
I love your.
We'll see.
I love the cabinet you use for your for all your collection and all that. So yeah, I want to get something like that myself. All I have is a Blu-ray shelf. So I don't know if you can see right there. That's my Switch stuff, and everything under there is games. So I'm curious. So
where I got the cabinet.
yeah, sure.
IKEA.
Yeah, I bought this online. I don't even remember the name of the website. So, but yeah, like Prime 3. Going back to Prime 3, talk about Prime 3. So you said that was forgettable. So one thing I'll say about Prime 3, and the controls was an initial turnoff for me when the game came out, but then as the more I played it, I actually realized, I don't think the controls are that bad once you play it long enough, get used to it. I got used to just like aiming at the screen. You have the bar, in front, and just aim at the screen and do that. I think I had an easier time with it than with the GameCube controls.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was the grappling hook in Prime 3 a late upgrade?
I think it was an early one. Prime 1 was one of the last ones.
See, I'm trying to think like, oh, was it a fun factor? Was it an element where there wasn't enough fun in the game? Because with so many of the adventure and platform games that I'm playing now, when you unlock some movement for me earlier rather than later,
Yeah.
that makes the game so much more fun to play. Like, I feel like those have to be fed to you every 5 hours or so. But if you're saying the grappling hook was early, I don't know what it would have been. That's I don't even know if that's going to be a game that I replay necessarily. But whoops, we're freezing. I'm freezing. Or maybe it's not my internet. Hello, hello. I wonder if you guys out there can hear me. Although if it's nerds, then you can't hear. Oh. Okay, sometimes his internet goes, hey, a little solo stream, everybody. I don't even know if this is working. I mean, clearly it is. You're talking to me. So we were talking about, you might have to run the show for a bit. Yeah, no problem. I'll take requests as well if you want to listen to me talk about anything. I'll give my, oh, he's texting me in Discord. Internet issue. Yeah, I'm going to run this show, baby. Let's do it.
Hey. All right. Hey, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Sorry about that. My internet just kind of went nuts. It cut me off.
All right. We're back in business.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes my internet does this.
Hey, nobody has to apologize for internet going out. Can't control it.
But yeah, I love one thing I thought was interesting was how they took a lot of inspiration from Halo, especially the beginning of Halo. And so you're on a battleship, and then all of a sudden the space pirates attack, kind of like the way the Covenant attack, and then you have to escape. I actually really liked how you had to fight them. I liked how you had to fight, how you had to fight and escape from the ship, and all the different ways of getting away. Like you were actually out in space, and then you climb back in and all that. I thought that was great. You fight a big giant space pirate looking Covenant looking thing because once again it was a Halo. It felt very Halo.
I wish I could remember a lot more of those parts of the game. I think one of the reasons why Prime 1 is also more memorable to me is because I got so into that logbook, and it was one of the few games where I actually enjoyed reading every single entry that popped up, and it really fleshed out the world for me. I mean, God, I hadn't played an adventure game like that. I would have been, I don't know how old I would have been. Let's just say, was it 2001? I would have been 10 years old.
For Halo? Yeah.
For Prime 1, sorry, for Prime 1.
2002.
2002. So I'm 11 years old, and everything about the game was like tailored to immersion. So I think that's why I kind of remember that one so much better than Prime 3. I wish I could relate to you talking about Prime 3, but
yeah, it was I thought it had a nice little epic. I like going to different planets in Prime 3. So you start with Norion, which was where the Federation base was that was being attacked in the first place. Then you went to I think it was Brio. Brio is the fire planet. So you went to two or three different parts of that planet so it wasn't all interconnected. That's one issue I know a lot of fans had, was that they weren't the worlds weren't interconnected.
Okay. Do you like the overarching story? Like, does that do something for you in the Metroid universe, or does it just need to be there and it's good enough?
That's a good question. I like that type of game. I love the first person adventure. I mean, I don't think now maybe you can answer this question. Has there been now Metroidvanias are a very common 2D thing. Like you have your Hollow Knights, you have your Castlevanias, you have your Axiom Verges. Like there's so many things that have replicated 2D Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the biggest expert in gaming, but I can't think of anything that has replicated Metroid Prime. That type of gameplay, the first person adventure, where it's like a Metroidvania, but you're in a 3D. It's a first person 3D environment. I don't know if any other game has done that.
I don't know, but when you're saying that they need to do a good job with 4 and how are they going to do it, my first thought is anytime you get to a new area in Prime, you get the sense that this is just a giant interconnected world, and it's not as simple as you're going to come back to this area when you get an upgrade and then you'll go through and it's like, oh, now you just go through this area but backwards. It's so much more complex than that. I think Dark Souls 1 had a lot of that feeling. Obviously, it doesn't rely on that as much with the exploration.
Mm-hmm.
But even like in one of the first areas called the Undead Burg, your first pass is going to be A to B. And then your second pass is going to be through a sewer that cuts through the same area, possibly. C, maybe I'm getting B and C mixed up, but you're going to be doing the same thing, but with a drop-down ladder. And so, yeah, Dark Souls 1 at least has a lot of that very well thought out level planning, world design, whatever you want to call it. Boy, that's it. 2 examples: Metroid Prime, the one that really did it so well, and Dark Souls.
I did get the Dark Souls for the Switch. Never played them. A buddy of mine has been telling me to play Dark Souls for years. He says it's basically Zelda for grown-ups.
Oh no,
you don't think so?
No, that's like people telling everyone else online that Okami is a Zelda-like game. I mean, the director says he's inspired by Zelda, but anytime someone tries to describe a game as another game, I feel like they're doing both those series disservice, honestly.
Okay.
Actually, even if it's not disservice, as in they're setting you up, even if it's not disservice, I feel like they're at least setting you up with the wrong expectations. What is Dark Souls? It's a very slow, methodical adventure game where the action is going to be really tight in close quarters, and the onus is on you, the player, to sniff out everything in every level.
Yeah,
like that's Dark Souls. Probably because it appeals to my OCD item finding. Is probably why I like Dark Souls so much.
I played a little bit of it, and I don't know. Like I played a little bit of it, and I wasn't sure if I was even progressing. I wasn't sure if I was even going in the right direction.
Yep.
But I died quite a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what made me stop. But I stopped playing. I had no idea where I was supposed to go. Like maybe with Metroid, there's really one path to take, and then you have to figure out that path. You have to figure out where to go. And maybe that was the appeal of the Prime games. I mean, one thing I love to do is to backtrack, and that's I think that's a big appeal, especially of Super Metroid. And the game doesn't tell you where to go. Prime 1 tells you where to go if you're looking for a very long time, or if you have the game on for a long time. Then it'll go.
Sorry. Finish describing that, because I just thought of another built-in mechanic.
So when you were playing the game long enough, all of a sudden you get like a signal, and then it says, "Oh, hey, there's an anomaly in this section." And then it brings up the 3D map, which I love.
Yes, I love like a little orange marker or something on it.
I love the 3D map, and then it shows a room, so it makes me think of Zelda. So like if you like, it's like having a map but without having a map. So but you see the room, but you don't see the rooms that lead up to it. So you have to figure out, okay, how do I get there? That even with that little thing that aid you, it was you still had to figure out how to get there. And with the 3D map, it was even trickier than, let's say, a 2D map like the original Legend of Zelda and all that. So in the dungeon. So I really liked that. I really like figuring out. And the other thing, I don't know about you, have you ever been able to collect? I asked AC this. He said no effing way. But have you ever been able to collect, be able to 100% all items and upgrades without cheats? without having to go online and say, hey, where am I missing? Because Prime does not indicate. I don't think Prime maps indicate where you're missing stuff. Whereas in Super Metroid, you have the 2D map, and there's a circle on the map, which is there's an upgrade here, but
Something's still in there. Okay,
it's somewhere in there.
So without having played Super Metroid, Dread has its little indications when you view your in-game map for, hey, this room is still flashing, or it's still glowing a pale white, so there's still something in here. No, I remember Prime, my brother and I printed out like basically a miniature booklet from GameFAQs, and we stapled it together and even did like masking tape spine on it. And for Prime 2, for Echoes, I had the official strategy guide. So I had something to follow along with for both of those games. 100%ed them. I was really happy to do that. It was really fun. I was thinking this doesn't help you with backtracking, but a really cool in-game tool for, hey, where do I go when I'm playing Metroid Prime? Put your visor on. If you're scanning things that are not previously entered in your logbook, that's probably a good indication.
That's true.
That's
true.
I don't know if you, I don't even remember which video I made, but basically a little problem boiled down to our game's getting too easy or our game's getting too hand-holdy. And The Witcher puts it right in your face that it's glowing red. This is where you investigate. Metroid Prime already figured it out. There's a visor that's optional, sometimes optional, not for battle, but sometimes optional for finding out lore in the world. If you need to figure out where to go, put your visor on.
Yeah,
I just thought the genius that game design is.
I'll give Breath of the Wild credit for this. Like the original Zelda, it doesn't hold your hand. I'll say that it doesn't hold your hand. That's one thing.
Not at all.
That's one thing that was one issue that, I mean, Ocarina was still, when I first played Ocarina, it was still tough to. There were times where I was like, okay, where do I go next? What do I do? And then all of a sudden, now he's like, hey, listen, and then what would Saria think if you know that you're the hero, or that you're here to save Hyrule and all that? I was like, so I have to go find Saria, because those were pretty good though. Those were pretty good hints, not too much, right? Yeah, that's true, because like even that was still tough. Like even that took me a while to kind of figure out. I have to find Saria. Well, she's not in the village. Where is she? Exactly. So you had to ask around, and so I'll be honest. The first game that I ever played where you actually talked to other NPCs was Zelda 2.
God, they were useless.
Yeah, well, I am error.
Not useless, they were.
Well, I am error.
But no. I know that's the big meme. And going into the game, I thought, that's so funny. Like somebody just forgot to fill in the text bubble or whatever. But then when you go, no one mentions this. In another town, they refer to the character Error. That is his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is such a half-baked lie that is just being disseminated throughout the internet, that they messed up in Zelda 2 at that programming or that text box. No, he's actually Error.
Nope, that's his name.
Maybe his name is actually meant to be Errol.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I mean, L's and R's. This is Japan. Who knows? Maybe that's it. Maybe it sounds problematic, but hey, I'm not here to say anything.
But was that enough for you in Zelda 2? Or I guess with enough persistence, you.
I never really. I'll be honest. I was never really good when I was a young kid. I was never really good at the whole, at the hints and all that. So I would just explore. I would explore the crap out of a map or something.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know why I got stuck on Zelda 1 and 2? Well, for the first Zelda, I did not. There was one room that was hidden. I couldn't get to the boss because I didn't know how to get to the boss in level 7. Level 7 is the one where you have to blow the whistle and the pond drains out, and then you go underneath, and that's level 7.
Oh yeah, so, everyone knows that if they look it up.
Yeah, there's a room with blocks that are in like a C, or like in a 3-sided C formation. Okay. You're supposed to move the block on the vertical column, the middle one, and that's how you get to the doorway that takes you to the other part of the thing. So I didn't know that. So level 7, and then the other thing was, I thought I was done. I got all 8 of the Triforce. I thought I was done. Is there another dungeon? I didn't know there was another dungeon. Like the only other thing is go to Spectacle Rock where you'll encounter death. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what the heck does that mean?
Jump off the rock.
So eventually what I learned to do, and I didn't know this at the time, I bombed everything. I bombed everything in Hyrule because I learned, oh wait, you bomb here? Hey, there's a cave. I got some rupees.
Right.
So I started bombing everywhere, and I bombed those 2 Spectacle Rock, and all of a sudden, years later, I'm in 7th grade. I accidentally stumble into level 9, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a new area I've never been to before. Oh my gosh, this is hard as hell. I'm dying. I need some potions now." So I eventually beat it. Beat Ganon. Ganon looked nothing like the cartoon. So I watched the cartoon, Legend of Zelda cartoon, before I ever played the games.
Oh, nice.
So the late 80s or like early 90s, I used to watch the cartoon before after school, and then once I beat all the Mario games, then I started getting into Zelda because Zelda was the other cartoon. So I went to the video store, and they didn't have the original Legend of Zelda, the red Zelda, because the box of the original Legend of Zelda was a gold thing. You had a shield on it, and it had Zelda in red font. I ended up renting Blue Link instead, Adventure of Link, and Link was in blue font, and they had the sword instead of the shield. So it felt like they were like, I always felt like they were companion pieces to each other. Like one was the shield, one was the sword. You had to have both of them, and both were the gold cartridge. Like what's weird is the gray cartridge is the one that's rare, and the gold cartridge is the one that's not rare. So, but then for Ocarina, the gold cartridge was the one that was rare, and then the gray cartridge was the other way around. But then when then Majora's Mask came out, it was the other way. Gold cartridge with the one thing about Majora's Mask, the label was holographic.
It's holographic. Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
That was the thing, man. Your Pokemon cards, maybe even your best Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I don't know if Magic had it. We weren't buying Magic cards at the time, but
it was a weird material because when you try to scratch it, it make my hackles right.
It's got ridges on it. I think it's one of those where you're supposed to see it shimmering if you tilt it.
Yeah.
So that's why it has the ridges, so you get different angles of the light looking at you. Yeah, man. Those are funny little fads, eh?
So talk about, since we're at N64 now, we kind of went on this weird little tangent. So Super Nintendo you skipped. So how did you get into N64? Like, did you guys own the N64? Did your older sibling get it and you played it with him? I remember you said, what was the one that, like, I remember you said in your video, Majora's Mask was your most memorable Christmas. And you know what? I'm not going to even say it. You tell us, how is it your most memorable Christmas getting Majora's Mask? Sure. I'm assuming this was Christmas of 2000 when the game came out, right?
If you say so. I don't know. You're asking from my 9-year-old memory at this point. But have you seen that YouTube video where the kid unwraps his present on Christmas and he's like, Nintendo 64?
Yes. Yep. I did. Yep.
I mean, didn't exactly have that kind of excitement. I don't know if I knew it was going on so much, but it was a very loaded Christmas where I guess the parents all got together and discussed this and that. And so the way I understand it is my aunt got me a Nintendo 64 with all of these games, probably a group effort, right? And my brother's opening that up and my sister's taking a look at it, and I'm going to obviously join in. I have no idea what games we got first. All I know is that I do not own Super Mario 64. So I've asked the question before, like, was that a launch title? Was that a whatever? We didn't have it. Yeah, we have to, skip forward a little bit. I know I had a really good time with games like Kirby 64, Crystal Shards. Ocarina of Time is one of my favorite games of all time as well. So yeah, a little bit cliched like that. But the most memorable Christmas with my siblings playing games was that Majora's Mask year. And by this point, established a tradition for our family where the kids could open one present on Christmas Eve or one each if it wasn't a group present. But my parents encouraged us to do. Why don't you guys do that gift? Probably that one for all three of you. And boy, oh boy, Majora's Mask was so good. So the viewers are listening to Termina Field right now. I did not get that far in my first playthrough. I think I had what felt like 2 hours, probably between like 7 and 9 o'clock at night. And just doing that first Great Fairy quest seemed like, I don't know if you can relate, but do you know the scope and the scale of the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild?
Sure.
That tutorial where you get the 4 abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The way that felt is basically how the Great Fairy quest felt for me in Majora's Mask. Even though if I replay the game today, it's like 10 to 25 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So I did that. I go to bed, not too happy about it, but it's my brother's turn to play. And I come down early the next day, and my brother's already got like 2 masks or something. I think he's already turning into a Goron.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember you said your brother stayed up with it, so he was way ahead of you by the time Christmas morning happened. So
yeah,
it took me a while to beat the Swamp Palace in the first place. But you know what's funny is I think the hide and seek thing, which you play in the beginning, yes. I swear it's been done in other games. Like I swear, like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you're looking for the cats in that one town, in that one town in Midgar, and it was just a fun thing. It wasn't something you had to do, but it made me think of Majora's Mask when you had to find the kids.
Yeah, you're right. That's for locked story progression. Super Mario Odyssey, they like doing their odd little quests where it's like, hey, can you help me find my kittens? There's a mama cat. Or in Bowser's Fury. So you say Final Fantasy VII? Yeah, I guess it's nothing too new.
Remake, not the original game.
Right. I want to get that one correct for everybody too. The bigger fans of the remake.
I like the remake. I haven't replayed it. I've been meaning to replay it for when Rebirth comes out. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I haven't had the time to play, so I might just play Rebirth without replaying the game. But but going back to Majora's Mask, so I know Majora's Mask is your number 2 game of all time.
Oh, it may as well be number 1.
Even more than Paper Mario?
It was like this, and I think Majora's Mask had been my number 1 right up until the making of that video, and I overthought it, and I dropped it down to number 2. And I kind of regretted it as soon as I published the video. It's like, I mean, they're both amazing games. Yeah. So I got
a question. What about Majora's Mask? Is it just because of the nostalgia, the memories, or is there more to it? Is it is it innovation? What type of the innovation of the gameplay of Majora's Mask that really made it your favorite?
Yeah.
By the way, did you like the thumbnail?
Yeah, I did.
It was either that or Paper Mario, but I didn't see good enough art for Paper Mario. So I
had everything in there. It was all good.
Yeah. So, but as a base, I was like, you know what? I like this painting. I like this art of, you have the typical Zelda type of thing where Link is in the bottom left corner, looking out into the world. And except this time the world has that evil moon, evil moon looming over it. Like I feel like, you know what? This is perfect for that.
Well, no, you did the right pick for the Legend of Leo. I mean,
yeah,
it's obvious that my name comes from the series, right? Yeah. Majora's Mask, so good. I typically like cliched hero stories. I like the hero archetype. I like the very classic one. So Link in Ocarina of Time was that for me. And God, it fit perfectly. I was 10 years old playing Ocarina of Time. And so him skipping 7 years into the future, I had all of these visions and ideas of what I would look like when I was 17 and stuff like that. I really gravitated towards the game. And I've always said since then, like, Link is probably my favorite video game character. Oh, but he's a silent protagonist. Like, there's nothing to him. It's like, well, I found a way to connect with the character, so too bad. Yeah, I can expand on that another time. And I just see, at least at the time, I saw sequels as natural progressions of the same story. So rather than me having to pick between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, although which I eventually did, Majora's Mask was just more Ocarina of Time. Sure, you're not the cool adult Link anymore, but you get to embody all of these adult characters, and you get to embody even more heroes. So there's heroes within a hero story. Mikau, the Zoro, is my favorite. Fierce Deity is amazing as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
The mask system is great. The time travel system is great. Being able to manipulate time to go forwards or backwards or revert or whatever it is was great. Angry Canadian in the chat says the Japanese version did not have owl saves. I probably would have hated the game in that case. But at least us playing our North American versions, I thought the balance and the pacing and everything was just right. You want me to keep on going? The characters are so memorable. You have the banker who's doing his silly thing that I don't want to do on camera right now. You got the girls who are dancing outside.
Yeah.
Man is in the game, so there's even connections and continuations from game one. Oh my god. The game's a masterpiece. And the dungeons are great. And the action's great.
And
the items. The equipment that you have. It was so nice that they got rid of the child and the adult limitations, so you could be a child with a hook shot. You could be a child with a bow.
Yeah. Okay, that I can agree with. I don't know. I didn't take to it. I mean, maybe it was because I was expecting more Ocarina, but I didn't take to Majora's Mask. I didn't like the time. I didn't like the time limit. I didn't like the time limit. I didn't like being in a dungeon. Like I would just slow time to a crawl, just so that I could keep exploring in the dungeon. It's just something I was not used to. So, and then when you go back in time, you lose like all of your consumable stuff, and then you have to go and you have to re-procure them and all that. And I never really liked that. I never really liked that. And then, I mean, yeah, like the time thing, I think it was very innovative. I like how I like this. What I did like were the side quests. So I don't hate the game, but I've only played the game maybe three or four times. I've only played the game 3 or 4 times. I still have not touched I have the 3DS copy. I still have not touched that yet. So that needs to be remedied.
Me too.
But I didn't like the dungeon design as much as Ocarina.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Great. There was the Great Bay Coast, the one with all the pipes turtle. And all that.
Oh,
the fish boss was a nightmare. That giant fish boss was a nightmare.
Oh, okay, interesting.
When you had to shock it, then it would go to the bottom, and then you had to put on the mask as Zora, and then you had to swim down.
And then you know why I like it.
Yeah, so
you play as my hero. Yeah.
I thought, but I'll say this: the game was dark. Like Majora's Mask was really dark. Like people is like one thing I didn't like about it. And I like how when you get closer to the end, the music changes. The music gets very, very epically sad and everything, especially as the moon is getting closer and closer and everything. I get goosebumps every time I hear that. I hear that track and all that. So,
yeah.
But yeah. Oh, what's up? What's up, Dread Roberts? How you doing? Yeah, we brought. Our guest mentioned Dark Souls not too long ago. So, yeah, he's all into Dark Souls and all those games. Elden Ring. He's trying to get me to play Elden Ring. So I played a little bit of Elden Ring.
Dread is for you.
Yeah, okay. Dread is. He's trying to get me to play Elden Ring again. I played a little bit of it. I just felt like playing Breath of the Wild. I felt like I was meandering into all this wasted time and all that. So I stopped.
You know what?
I stopped.
Those are 2 games, the 2 that you mentioned, that for some people, they are so much more fun with a guide. And I've actually enjoyed being that Navi companion for people. It's like, well,
you've done that? Oh, you've done that?
I've introduced Elden Ring to 1 person and Breath of the Wild to 2 people. Yeah, and I had a lot of fun doing so.
Okay. So we'll get to Breath of the Wild. I want to say Breath of the Wild for the very, very final thing, because I know how much you love Breath of the Wild. I know how much
I sure.
I'm okay with it. I don't think it's bad. So, but going back to Majora's Mask, what did you like? Did you ever complete that one 100%? Because I never did. I never got all the heart containers and all that. Because
Love.
apparently you had to wait for days. You had to wait for till like day 2. Like you plant something, then it would, like for instance, like the
The
you
magic
planted
beans.
the magic beans, and then
Yes.
I think they wouldn't grow until day 2 or day 3, if I remember
And you
correctly.
had to do that on the same playthrough, like on the same cycle of days. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I have no clue, honestly, how some of these mechanics or what I would think of them if I were to experience them for the first time as an adult. Now I've got all these stupid time pressures, and if I'm trying to play a game with a couple hours on a weekday, it's like, ugh, what do I want to get out of it? How much frustration is tolerable for me? But also at the time, I had both my brother and the strategy guide as my companions. So it's, a lot of people, for example, getting their gilded sword from the blacksmiths, that's a little bit of a convoluted quest line, right? No problem when you have a guide. No problem if you watch your brother do it before you. So yeah, it's a really funny one where I can't necessarily relate the same way to everybody because I played it as a kid. All of these other things appealed to me as a kid, and I didn't necessarily get stuck. Or if I did, it didn't bother me. Like, oh, it's wasting my time. I can tell you more things about what I truly enjoyed, though, as opposed to what frustrations I avoided.
You know what I liked the most about Majora's Mask? I liked procuring the masks. I liked that big side quest, especially when you had to get the I forget what the final mask was, where you had to follow
Couples
the dude,
mask.
the couple's mask, where you had to follow I forget his name, the dude with the blue hair. Cafe.
I call him Cafe. Maybe some people say Cafe, whatever.
Cafe, yeah. So Cafe got hit by some curse, and he looks like a kid, but he's actually an adult, and he's engaged to the redhead Anju and all that.
Yeah.
So
she's the granddaughter who runs the shopkeep at the inn.
Yeah, and she's the one that's I forget. I think her name's Anju in Ocarina too. The Cucho lady, the one that you put all 7 Cuchos in the yard, you get the bottle.
Yeah, probably. Okay,
yeah, same. Well, at least same model. I don't know if the character was named in Ocarina, but yeah, I do like how the characters were named. I like how, one thing I'll say this, I like how with when time changes, characters are in different places. That I liked. And then I like how the thief guy was like the villain of that story. And the thief was pretty terrifying. Like
Sakon or
Sakon or whatever. And you have to get that mask. You have to get through that factory before the mask falls into the furnace or something to never be seen again. You know how many times I've screwed that up and I've had to replay it? Oh From my gosh! I'm like, no, I'm like, it takes like what 45 minutes to get through.
That was the tension that my brother and I would feel as we're there, and it's just go execute now. You know what has to be done? Go execute.
It was fun. It was fun trying to hide from the thief, so you didn't spook him and all that.
Get into the hideout in the first place. I hated that part though.
Yeah.
That was more nerve-wracking than being inside of the conveyor belt. Is trying to get in, I thought.
Oh, this part.
The aliens at the ranch. See how many cool things there are. And before we get to the aliens, because every time you mention a character, I'm remembering their name. Now, maybe compared to other, I'll just use JRPGs of the time, right? Not actually giving specific examples, but a type of game where you go around the town and you interact, and it's like, okay, this town's got a village elder, and here's the son, and the friend, yada yada. I thought the Majora's Mask laid out a really beautiful town for the storytelling, where the inn was one family, the mayor was caught in between a conflict with the carpenters and the guards, and he's trying to figure out what he should do. And every day that passes by, the mayor's problems are a little bit more magnified. If you go to one of the rooms, the grandmother is actually like, I'm going to tell you the story about I'm going to read you the same bedtime story that I'd read Tortu. It's like her nickname for the mayor, who's her son. Just all these little connections that really brought life to the game. And God, I'm going to go on a million.
Remember the arm that reaches out and asks for toilet paper?
Yeah, the bathroom.
What was that?
Yeah. If this wasn't my first time being introduced to so many people online, I would do that impression. I would do the arm sound effect.
Oh my gosh, that just messed with me for a
Oh,
while.
and how
Oh,
funny too. It's like, well, I mean, this is paper, and you give it a hard, like crunchy deed, a paper deed. It's
no.
so good. I love those touches. That is a
Yeah,
very lively world that you like to be a part of. And even something as simple as the carpenters having fixed paths, it's
yeah.
enough. It's enough to perk it all up. Quick little aside, have you played Final Fantasy 12?
I have not. I have the Switch collection. I forget what it's
Okay.
called. It's called
Zodiac Age. Right?
Zodiac Age.
Yeah.
I've heard from a friend of mine who got me into Final Fantasy. So I didn't play Final Fantasy until I was in college. So one of my friends gave me a Super Nintendo emulator with a bunch of ROMs already packed
Beautiful.
with it. I played first. I played Chrono Trigger because they mentioned Chrono Trigger. Love that game. But then I started with Final Fantasy 2 on Super Nintendo, which is actually Final Fantasy 4.
Yeah.
So I played 4.
Yeah.
And then I played 5, which I know is on your list of all-time greats. So Final Fantasy 5, the character, what's funny is the character is the main character's name by default, at least in Butts. His name was Butts. And I kept calling him Butts, and everybody started laughing. They're like, what? That's not his name. That's just
the OG.
Yeah. That's not his name. His name's Bartz. I was like, okay. So, but yeah, because 5 never came out in the U.S. That wasn't. It was just. It was a translation. I'm guessing that was an error or something. I don't know. Translation error. I don't know. But that's how I played 5 initially. It didn't come out until I think it was already on Game Boy Advance by the time I played it, and I think that's the version that you played, right?
I loved it.
So you didn't have the Super Nintendo, so a lot of those games were
as the advance. Yeah, they were called advanced versions. 6 advance.
So which ones came out for advance? I know you play 1 and 2 for
6. Oh, sorry, but not 3.
3 was DS.
Yeah, 1 and 2 released as the Dawn of Souls, and I loved those. 3 was the DS. 4, 5, and 6 came out as advanced titling.
Have you ever played? Did you know that they made as a follow up to 3 on DS? They made a Final Fantasy 4 for DS, which I actually have.
Yeah,
I don't know how rare it is, but I still haven't beaten that one yet. But I've beaten 4. 4 was my initial entry.
I don't know about those models. I mean, I know that my first time experiencing those models was in 3, and I thought it was fine. It was a bit of a primitive game, but I mean, it's 3. It's so early on in the franchise. But God, they suck for the After Years. They are killing that game for me.
I didn't play that version of After Years. So, and After Years came out. I think I got the WiiWare version, and it was the PlayStation. Right, I got the Sprite version. The issue I have with that game is that they simply reused the same tracks from Final Fantasy 4, all the same tracks, and it got to a point where I was like, it would have been nice for a little remix and maybe some. I mean, I think there was some new themes. I don't remember. I only played that one once, but that final boss. Wow, that final boss. I must have did 99999 attacks 100 times, and that boss wouldn't die. I'm like, what's going on here?
Oh boy! And
then you have to flee this boss. Is this boss supposed to be God or something? What's going on here? And it's such a weird ending. It was such a weird ending that didn't. We still don't know what happened to Fusoya, the Lunarian.
Soon enough. I'm halfway through, but the stories are painstakingly slow and mundane. And
I'll say this: it does one thing that the original game did not. So, remember Cain? Cain was brainwashed by Golbez, but then Golbez himself was brainwashed by Zamus, the evil Lunarian. By the way, Final Fantasy IV is very Star Wars. You find out Golbez is actually Cecil's brother, and that
so he's like your Vader, and
he is Darth Vader. He is Darth Vader, and Zamus is the Emperor controlling. Is the one that's actually pulling all the strings and all that. But yeah, that was my intro, and I got so into it. I was so into that game. I love how the beginning of the game, Cecil is just Cecil is just in a state of he's in a state of he's how would I describe it?
He's
He's
distraught.
conflicted. He is distraught and he's conflicted because of what he's ordered to do, and he knows it's wrong. What's weird is he knows it's wrong, but he's a soldier. He has to do his duty. You know,
and even though I wasn't at that age, not even close, when I played 4 Advance, now, like, just replaying the game for footage, really easy to kind of relate to his situation, where you do put your things like your allegiance and your work and your lifestyle first, and yet you come home to your wife and that facade kind of melts a little bit. And I just thought, like, looking back at it, they did a really good job on the characters of that game. I think that's why when I made the Final Fantasy video, I said that the best party was 4, just because I felt that each character had just a couple more details compared to maybe 6, for example.
Yeah, I mean, 4. I think 4. I agree with you on your take. Now your rankings. That's gonna be a very interesting. That's gonna be a very interesting discussion. But 4. One thing I'm with you on 4 is that 4 is very simple with its just its RPG system. You don't assign anybody. You know, the jobs are already, in there. And even like their abilities that they learn, they just simply learn by getting to a high enough level.
Yes.
So like Mateo or Meteor, whatever it's called, I think you have to get to level 60 for your Black Mage or whoever. I think the Black Mage in this game is Rydia. White Mage, who has Holy, is Rosa. So, yep. I mean, yeah, and then, but just like everybody has their own job and everything. So like I didn't even realize that I got the so how I did stream 4. I got the Steam version, I forget what they call it, the remastered Steam version. I'm trying to remember how they called it.
Square just went a little too far with how many times they've like remade and remastered and re-released these Final Fantasy games.
Yeah,
how do you keep up if you're looking for the authentic experience?
Yeah,
I guess Pixel Remaster now.
Pixel Remaster, that's what it's called. Pixel Remaster. Yeah, I haven't played the other 5, but like I eventually do. But yeah, like you're right. How many times are they going to re-release it? There's probably going to be another re-release in probably another 5 years.
People make fun of Skyrim for having 100 editions. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasies are right up there too.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's 100 editions of Skyrim, but yet still we don't have Elder Scrolls 6. Because if you want to go back in time, I mean, Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 came out, I think, in 2001, and then Oblivion number 4 came out in 2006, and then Skyrim came out in 2011. So there was 5-year gap, which is reasonable. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's 2024 now. It's been over 12 years since Skyrim came out. Like we're 6.
Well, God, and now they have
to. Todd Howard. Where is it?
Now they have to take some of this information that they've gathered from the release of Starfield, try to put that back into the Elder Scrolls 6 development cycle, see if there's anything that they should adjust and alter. And so, I don't know. Like, thankfully, I'm not somebody who actually gets hung up waiting on any sequel. It doesn't matter if it's my favorite series, second favorite, Pokemon or Zelda. When it comes, it comes. And if I'm playing the games at that time, I'll play them. But thankfully, just with those things, no FOMO. So, hey, if I don't see Elder Scrolls 6 until 2030, which at this point we're looking at, that's okay.
Yeah, now with the fact that I don't play nearly as much games, like games just keep coming out like left and right before I even know it. Like I remember when Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was announced. Like I was like, oh, it's not coming out for a while. I'm thinking, oh boy, because of how busy I am, I know it's going to come out before I know it. And then I'm just like, oh, I gotta buy it and I gotta play it and all that. So I'm just like, it's so funny how quickly now, especially now that I'm older, how there's so many games now. Like it's like BioPhoenix is right here. Too many, the market's saturated. Yeah, there are too many games to play. So,
and I don't even think that's a bad thing, because I never want to say, hey, are you guys being too creative or too productive, making too many games? Like, that's okay. That people just need to find their own ways to get rid of this feeling of FOMO. I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were kind of reenacting a lot of the dialogue and the discourse that comes up on Twitter and YouTube comments, and it would be something like this, right? I make a video, I'm going to talk about a couple of games from 2013. I'm doing my best games of 2013 list. Oh, like, I thought I was going to see these games. Like, how come you didn't play Baldur's Gate 3? And I might just turn around to you and say, well, where's your Tears of the Kingdom content? What, huh? Like, I was playing Tears of the Kingdom while you were playing Baldur's Gate 3. And when I was playing Elden Ring, you were playing God of War. It's just, so what? It's like, people don't really stop and realize that's how it is.
Unless you're a kid that has all the time in the world to play all these games. I mean, actually, most adults do not.
Not even. I thought about that before we went live. I'm in my kitchen, and it's just one of those random thoughts. I could be jobless with all the money in the world, and for all the things that I want to do, I'd still have to sacrifice like at least half of them. I mean, at that point, I'm going beyond games, but even just games, I'd have to sacrifice like whole genres. Yeah.
I mean, time's more valuable than money now, especially for me because I'm older. I mean, it's just like you want to put your time, and games are long. Like, part of the reason why I stopped Tears of the Kingdom because I felt like I was wasting time. Like,
yes,
just the first part of the game took me 5 hours. Like, I actually streamed it and I looked at the time. It was 5 hours. I'm like, I don't want to put 250 hours into a game that I feel half-hearted, maybe quarter-hearted about. Like,
honestly, being an adult is just so funny how like everything has to pass through your cost-effective analysis.
Yeah.
Like, time put in, sunken cost fallacy.
Yeah.
I feel you, man, but it's okay because this is why also kind of segues into something else. I would rather sit here and discuss things that we both can celebrate as opposed to like butting heads over things. Because if we were going to butt heads, I wouldn't say this to you personally, you're a good guy, but if it's going to happen like a comment section,
don't tell me you should maintain.
Sorry, if it's going to happen in a comment section or something though, you go enjoy the things that you've been playing. I'm so glad that you can recommend something. I'm so glad that you're getting mad at me because I didn't play Final Fantasy 14. You enjoy your time there. I got to go do this other stuff, man.
Hey, I mean, one thing I like seeing passion in people, and I like to when I plan these Chillporeal streams. I mean, like, I'm not gonna talk to you. I mean, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm not gonna talk to you about Star Trek because I'm assuming Star Trek is not really in your wheelhouse. So
correct.
That's why I brought up. That's why I've been bringing up Majora's Mask. That's why I try to do my research and I try to kind of build a conversation off of that. So I mean, that's what I do. I mean, AC kind of does the same thing, but AC has a very different setup. He's way cooler than me. I'm more easygoing.
Well, you're not a Bionicle, so
that's true. I you know what's funny is I have always been aware of Bionicle. I've never had it, so I had to ask AC a whole bunch of questions when we did ours and all that. So,
do you want to wrap it? This is something I had kind of enjoyed doing with you, just because you are a little bit older. And I wanted to ask, first of all, do you have any older siblings, or you're the first or only child?
No, I have a younger brother who's pretty close to your age. I think he's a little bit younger. He's born in '92. So
okay, so a little bit of the similarities between my brother and myself. So, were you somebody who was kind of the like steering the ships, that you guys would watch The Simpsons or anything like that? Do you know for a fact, like, maybe you got him into some more mature media?
I mean, what's funny was when it comes to video games, I mean, my brother never really got into like the older retro stuff, like the NES, Super NES stuff. My brother was like I said, my brother's closer to your age. My brother really responded in Nintendo 64 and GameCube. So my brother played. My brother really liked Ocarina of Time. He loved Mario. Loves Mario 64. He loves a whole bunch of Star Wars games. So that I got into Star Wars. I started getting the VHS for Star Wars in the mid '90s. He was real young, but he started getting to it. He used to make fun of me for liking Star Trek. So I got into Star Trek because I got into Star Wars, because Star Trek was in the '90s. Star Trek was everywhere. Like, Next Generation came out when I was like 2 or 3. So every time I watched TV, there was a rerun of that show on, and I used to
interesting.
moan because I used to watch cartoons. Cartoons was the thing I used to watch as a kid, and I see Star Trek. I'm like, oh, not Star Trek again. It's funny that years later, when I became adolescent, fifth, sixth grade, I ended up started watching Star Trek itself. So
Was that on the Space Channel?
What Space Channel?
I love the name. Well, maybe this is Canadian programming, but most of what we had was American. So I just assume that pretty much every channel I tuned into would have been American. Space Channel was on channel 51, I think.
That's funny you say channel 51. So channel 50 was the station here in Chicago that used to play most of the Star Trek shows.
Okay.
It was called United Paramount Network, and because Star Trek was distributed by Paramount, that it made sense. So I used to watch Star Trek Voyager as it came on. That was the first time I ever followed a live action show as it was airing. So, and what's funny is I for Christmas, and I've said this on other streams, I used to get Star Trek tapes along with the Nintendo games I would get for Christmas. So like,
nice.
I used to collect the original Star Trek series of the '60s show with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, Kirk and Spock. They used to have the blue VHS tapes that used to be available at all the different video places. So I used to get maybe 2 tapes, 2 episodes, 1 episode per tape. That's how it was. They didn't have DVD seasons back then.
Man.
So I had 2 particular episodes that I got with Ocarina of Time. And what's funny is I remember, and I say this in if you watch Ocarina of Time retrospective, I briefly say the 2 episodes that I remember, the 2 episodes I actually got with Ocarina of Time. So I associate those 2 episodes whenever I rewatch them with Ocarina. It's weird how that works. Same with Donkey Kong Country 3. I got that in '96 because my folks couldn't afford the N64. So I got Donkey Kong Country 3. You know what's funny about that game? The N64 makes a cameo in that game. And you hear the Super Mario Castle theme when you're saving the game at one point.
Oh, wow.
So Wrinkly Kong, the Grandma Kong, the one that's married to Cranky, well, there's points where she's playing the N64, but then there's a point where you go in where she's sleeping and leaves the N64 on, and you hear the dun 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 dun, from Peach's Castle. Yeah,
that is so cool.
It took me a while, like, where have I heard this before? It sounds familiar, and then I realized it was from Mario 64. I didn't realize she was playing Mario 64 in the game.
Yeah.
So,
well, how appropriate that, as far as the sequence of events goes, Donkey Kong would come first and then Mario, right? Just like how we had Donkey Kong, the arcade game, before. He was only Jumpman back then.
Yes.
The reason why I wanted to ask you just about the influences and things like that, I was wondering if you'd want to do just a very short, rapid fire session. I want to throw some 90s things that are coming to mind and just see if you're familiar with them, if they were ever phased for you, really quickly.
Sure.
So curious if we have some of these things in common. So a couple of them, I love the games of the era, Pogs, and that's my brother's influence.
I remember Pogs. When I used to go to summer camp or day camp, people my age would have them. I never actually had them myself. I remember people used to play with them. I'm like, what the heck is this? And for some reason, what's weird was I didn't really have an opinion because I never really owned them, but people are like, oh, if you had Pogs, you must be bad news or something. You must be a bad kid or something. No, seriously, like that's
maybe if you had the Crusher, the big one. But jeez,
like the kids were bad news. They were bad influences or something. Pogs, Pogs, yeah. I don't know why. I don't remember why, but that's just what they're like. Don't mess with those. Those kids are troublemakers. Those kids that play with Pogs.
That's just the progression of things, isn't it? I mean, geez, I remember from a friend's video that he made. If you were into crosswords, like way back, decades and decades ago, you were a troublesome person. Especially if you went to the library and you took the crosswords from the newspapers. How dare you? That acronym.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask this question because Nosferatu always asks this question. Have you ever played Deus Ex? Because every time I make a video about something, he always trolls me and says, "Why are you not working on a Deus Ex video? Deus Ex is better than everything." So
I've been looking forward to playing that and playing System Shock. I actually already played Deus Ex: Human Revolution. That was the one where everyone memed the trailer where he's like, "I never asked for this." You know the guy. Like no one can even do his voice because that's actually how his voice sounds in real life. But yeah, I'll get to Deus Ex at some point.
By the way, did you know the guy that worked on Deus Ex? They're re-releasing his Epic Mickey game for the Switch. They just announced it on the this morning's.
His game.
Yeah,
really?
Warren Spector.
Funny couple of games to work on.
Yeah, so he was known for Deus Ex, but then he worked on Epic Mickey. And I mean, I went to New York Comic Con to a panel, the Epic Mickey panel. My friend asked him a question. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like, is this going to be like the Disney game? Like, and I think he gave my friend like a smart ass answer. Yeah. And so my friend, I was like, I'm not buying this effing game. I bought Epic Mickey, and
yeah,
it felt like it was trying to be Super Mario Sunshine. I think
I'll enjoy it then.
Yeah. Oh, you probably will. It wasn't a bad platformer. I mean, it was a good 3D. If you like 3D platformers, you're like, I know you're not a fan of Donkey Kong Country. You're not a fan of even the ones, but I know you love Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah. Well, I am a fan of the 3Ds then. Just
3D
not necessarily a fan of the 2Ds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, any other 90s related stuff?
Yeah. Okay, so to me, it felt like the natural evolution from Pogs, once everyone kind of had their fill of those, were Crazy Bones. And at this point, my brother, 6 years older, did not play with them, did not touch them. But my friends and I, did I play the Gex games? No, I have not. I did not have a PlayStation. Crazy Bones were just like, I guess they're just a bunch of acrylic little pieces that have silly designs, and most kids would carry them in plastic coffins, and you would line them up and basically make them like little army men on your field, and you just have fun flicking them into each other. Like I said, the evolution of Pog. It's a tactile game that you played with other people in the schoolyard, or you could collect them. And the best ones either were usually like translucent with sparkles in them. Yeah, see, BioPhoenix and I think we're the same age. If not, we're like really close in age. And so plus we're both Canadian.
Is this what you're talking about on the screen right here?
Yeah, those are a little knockoff looking, like not knockoff, but like those are kind of a series those are good. Those are like legit, like first series Crazy Bones right there. So that guy's got a good one. And the weird ones that are like the color of yellow teeth, those glow in the dark.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the golds would have been pretty rare, but like a clear green would have been my favorite. Huh. Oh my god, I'm being taken back to the past.
Did you ever get any memorable
Happy Meals?
Make Happy Meals. There's one Happy Meal I do want to share with you, but
I'll
ask you first.
Yeah, again, if you were born in the 80s, I think you had it better. We have some things from McDonald's that are like limited edition glassware. Like we have really cool things, like literally glasses that you could drink out of from McDonald's. Toys, I can't remember any of the toys exactly. Oh, I think we have that inflatable Koopa. Not inflatable, but when you push on the pump, the Koopa moves its little legs forward, and it moves like a centimeter forward at a time. We have that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then you have the Goomba right here with the suction cup.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
This was, I think I was 6. I don't know if I was 5 or 6. I saw the commercial for this. I freaked the hell out when I saw it. I was like, the first thing I was like, Mom, I want to go to McDonald's. Yeah. Take me to McDonald's. And
oh man, yeah.
And so for like, I don't know how long the Happy Meal thing lasts. I don't know if it's a month or a couple months, but like I kept getting Luigi the first 2 or 3 times. I kept getting Luigi, and I was just like, I'm getting the same thing. And
that's
when
you send your mom to the counter, and she goes, can you make sure it's not Luigi in this Happy Meal? My son's already gotten it.
Yeah. So I finally I first got Luigi, then I got the Goomba.
Yeah.
And then I got the bouncy Mario. Like the bouncy Mario was my favorite. I used to love to play with the bouncy Mario. But I love the Happy Meal. This is how it looked back in the day. Look at this.
That is so sick.
Yeah.
Look at the fall from grace that McDonald's has gone through with its Happy Meals. We've gone from this in the 90s to something with Travis Scott a couple of years ago. Like, are you kidding me? I don't even know if you know who Travis Scott is. He's just a rapper. But that's basically the point.
I've heard the name.
I mean, I don't know if he's actually involved in Happy Meals, but from how I remember McDonald's, being a place where you could get some sick hotcakes and a 20-piece nugget that actually tasted pretty good back then.
Yeah.
To whatever the heck it is now. Oh, God. When people say the good old days, I know exactly what they're talking about. Happy Meals.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I mean now I think they've done more Mario stuff lately. I think that Nintendo's done a whole bunch of other stuff with Nintendo lately. So with Happy Meals and all that. So
yeah.
But yeah, like kids now, I don't know, I've shared with younger people, with especially my friends' kids, the stuff that I grew up with, and they actually find those stories fascinating. What we used to do, how we used to, I would tell them, because a lot of kids now grew up with having 3D stuff and playing the later games
or gadgets as opposed to toys.
Yeah.
They have electronic gadgets.
Yeah, and so I like telling them there was no internet. So we had to figure stuff. We had to figure stuff out. We had to. I actually said I got to witness. As the games got better, games progressed and all that. Yes, I was too young for the Atari. I never played the Atari 2600. Those are even older Gen X. Those are Gen Xers. So I think the Gen Xers have the best deal. Those people born in the late 70s who got to experience the 2600.
I don't know.
Then the NES, then everything after that.
I've thought of that, and I really feel I know it's a little bit biased coming where I'm from, but I feel like some of those earliest consoles we can all do without. We can appreciate that they were there, laying the foundation, but think about what we'll get to experience that the people older than us might not. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, but I can at least predict that VR is going to be insane.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sold on VR. I mean, because I remember, I don't know if you remember, do you remember Disney Quest? This was late 90s. So no. Disney Quest, Disney started this place called Disney Quest, where it was basically they had all this they had arcade games there. So there was that famous Star Wars arcade game where you're fighting Vader with a lightsaber, first person, weird thing. But there was a few VR games where I had to put on something, and then I held a lightsaber and you had to fight somebody, and I felt so strange to me. It just felt I don't know if I think I had a headache after I used it. So I don't think I was ever a fan of VR or I'll even be honest, go even further than that, the 3D gimmick in the 3DS.
That was so pointless.
I never I started using the 3D, but then it got to a point where you had to stay focused with your eyes, you couldn't move your eyes at all to maintain focus on the screen, and it got to the point where it took a toll. I just turned it off. I don't need it. It doesn't matter. It was fun for Mario 3D Land when I played it, and I played a little bit of Rock Arena, but that was it. Every other 3DS game I just had it turned off.
Are you remembering this? A Star Wars arcade game with a built-in joystick. But what's a built-in joystick? Like within the game, it's a virtual joystick on the screen?
I think so. I think that's a game I think I talked about. I think.
Oh, really?
I think that's the game. Yeah. So there's one where you fight Vader, but then there's another first person where where Boba Fett is hovering in his jetpack and he's trying to shoot you, and you have to figure out where to move your lightsaber to deflect.
Oh, cool.
And you're fighting it. It was tough. It's not
Beat
easy.
Saber, but hit the target, not avoid them.
And you have to figure out how exactly are you going to deflect it. What angle does the lightsaber have to be? It's a weird thing. So, but yeah,
physical arcade cabinet. Interesting.
I think I've had this on one on. We're gonna play something a little more lighthearted. It's a Mario RPG Forest Maze.
Well, I should have mentioned this again off stream. Hate to do it on stream, but is there anything you kind of want to wrap up a little bit? Because tomorrow's I'm getting started early tomorrow.
All right.
So this is about my 2 hour ish.
All right, sure. I figure we talked a little bit about video game music, we played some of your favorites right here. So what really stands out? I know you said, I feel the most memorable tracks have a very strong melody.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot
You
of
and I
games
both.
back in the day used to have strong, unique melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Games now don't have that as much.
Are you just repeating what I said in a video?
Pretty much,
No,
yeah.
we have the same
Yeah.
opinion on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think you nailed it. And I've tried to look at why, and I know not every game is like this. Your audience, they know that when we speak, we're not speaking in absolutes, right? We're speaking just kind of generally.
Mhm.
Um
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
yeah. I've come up with the theory that it was probably due to the hardware limitations. And if you only have a certain amount of I don't know what you'd call it, but basically like slots on your music track, then you can only what is the most important thing to convey to the listener, and it's going to be the melody. Yeah. Where do you want to go with the music in video games specifically?
Like I mean, I'm just like, what is some of your like I know you liked. I'm just curious what your favorites are.
Sure. I can kind of go on with some random thoughts about it. So I've noticed some of my favorite songs coming from Pokemon and Zelda are sometimes the waltz songs, Mario as well, or at least songs that are in 3/3.
Mhm.
I can't remember right now, and it's going to be embarrassing if I give an example and it's not in 3/3, but like one of the I don't think this one though.
This is
Yeah, this is
Cerulean.
4/4.
This is Cerulean
Yeah.
City.
This is a good song, but you know, in Mario, it might be like the underwater theme. That's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's just something I've noticed. I kind of gravitate towards.
You play you musician at all? If I may be so bold.
I mean, I have to toot my own horn a little bit here. I was really good on all music, and I was like the first sax in high school for the class and for stage band and for one other band. I wasn't the first sax for jazz band, but the jazz just like didn't mesh with me.
What kind of sax? Alto, soprano,
I
tenor?
could play baritone and alto, but we had an alto sax in the house, and so that was the thing that I wanted to play the most. And man, it got so annoying in junior high. Oh yeah, I don't know what you guys call them in the States, but like junior high here is usually grades 6 to 9.
Mhm.
And then high school, yeah. So I don't know. I've heard that's a thing. Sometimes not everyone knows junior high or middle school. That's the one you guys don't know. Middle school, we sometimes call it.
I didn't go to middle school. I was elementary school all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade. So
okay,
yeah. So I didn't know middle school existed until I met a few friends in college. So yeah, it wasn't a thing in Chicago.
Yeah.
Suburbs, yeah, but not actual Chicagoland.
It's funny how the nomenclature can differ just all across North America. But yeah, I had my grade 7 band teacher. Like I was already far enough along on the clarinet. She didn't let me switch to the alto saxophone, which I said, I'm going to bring it from home. I have my own alto sax and I'm like ready to graduate to the next instrument. And she didn't want me to get ahead of the other kids. And I just kind of had some poor class management. And so going into the later years of high school with what I wanted to focus on in university, unfortunately, music got cut. So I can't pretend to know a lot about music theory. But since leaving playing music behind, and I kind of do this with movies too, I like to listen to things and break them down a little bit, understand them. And I actually had a phase in my 20s, my mid-20s, where I learned how to just produce basic music.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, you froze.
On a ring of death.
Oh, okay, you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I had just asked, and then we had the silence, if you are familiar with Fruity Loops or FL Studio. It's just some electronic production software. You can use it for any genre of music, but it's computer-based software for making music.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is just something that I wanted to teach myself, see if I could do something with music again. And I learned how to use that in my 20s. So how does it all come back to game music? I guess that's just answering your question of if I have a background in music. No, but I take my interests in things really far. If I'm not actually learning about that thing, it's not really an interest of mine.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you recognize this track. This is from Final Fantasy V. I figure, if we're gonna wrap it up, let's talk a little bit about Final Fantasy.
Let's do it.
So, it's interesting that I know you put 2 and 5 as your top 2. 2 was a nightmare for me when I played. So I didn't play the Game Boy Advance versions. You played Game Boy. I was I very loosely played handheld growing up. So I played the Final Fantasy Origins collection on the PlayStation 1. That's how I played 1 and 2. So I'm playing 2. And 2 doesn't have your traditional level up experience system. No. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I kept, what's funny is I was looking up. Apparently, you can really cheat the system. I didn't know this when I was in college. Yeah. Apparently, I didn't even realize you could attack each other and raise your health, raise your defense and your HP that way. I didn't know that. So this was like a brand new thing. So it was taking me forever to level up to be able to get to. Was it Palamecia, the name of the empire? That apparently the emperor's the devil or something. It was a weird. You go to hell, you go to pandemonium. it was nuts. Like it took me forever to beat that one, and I was just like, I'm never playing this game again. And this was 2006 when I was in my 4th year of college, and I was like, I haven't played it since. I still own several copies. I have 2 for the Pixel remaster. I still have my. I think I still have my copy of Origins, physical copy for PS1. Wow. But what did you like so much about 2? Was it because of the difference that they didn't have an experience system?
No. I was too young to care about like different gameplay mechanics. Well, I'm going to say one of my favorite things is a gameplay mechanic, but it wasn't like I was comparing it to other games. Again, it starts off with one of those Christmas memories where that was the game that I opened up, Dawn of Souls, for Christmas Eve. And I was just relaxing in a bit of a lounge chair, like one of those with a really tall back and the 2 arms. So I'm in one of those chairs, always making my tea, blanketing up during my Christmas break and getting through Dawn of Souls, Final Fantasy 1. And then Final Fantasy 2 was just so different. First of all, with it felt like a graphical enhancement right off the bat. And the desert actually looks more like a desert. The towns look like more fleshed out towns, right? I love the art for Furion, the main character.
Excuse me.
No problem. And little things start from there. Little things start with the visual appeal. Like kind of you eat with your eyes first, right? So I'm eating with my eyes. I'm feasting on Final Fantasy 2 and all these upgrades over 1. And then, because you could do whatever you wanted with your characters, I was just hooked.
I liked how it began because you're being chased by the bad guys, and the bad guys completely own you,
crush you.
They crush you. You're like, oh my gosh, am I at game over? Like I really thought I was game over. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And then you wake up and it was 4 of you, but the 4th one is missing. I think the 4th dude, I think his name's Leon.
Maria's brother.
Yeah, Maria's brother, and he's kind of like Kane. He's kind of like Kane. Like, yes. I think he comes back and he's brainwashed and all that, and you have to help him and all that. I like the story because first game, you're just the first Final Fantasy, you're the 4 warriors of light. And by the way, you were right. But your younger self was right. Garland was the final villain.
Oh, actually?
Yeah, that he becomes chaos at the end.
Oh my god, I can even remember that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was thinking, I was like, you were talking in your video, like, oh, we thought Garland was the main boss. I'm like, dude, you're right.
He is. Oh, that's funny. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Wow.
But going back to, I like how they gave the characters it set the precedent for 4 with characters having their own names and having their own little identities.
Little episodes within the game, kind of.
I forgot. Did they have jobs in 2 or were they
2 was free formed? You could do whatever you want. You could give them whatever weapons. But when a new character was introduced in your party, it's like, okay, so Minwu's the stereotypical white mage. So Joseph I think that was his name, is the stereotypical monk.
Yeah.
So they had that, but they're like. I think it's great. I think that's a great way. It's a way that I like to play, like even my Western RPGs. You're going to give me some characters in my party that have a mold, sure, but you can break the mold.
Okay.
So I like freedom more than I like a Final Fantasy IX or a Final Fantasy IV, those set job classes.
Okay. And I'm taking going into 5. That's why 5 is your favorite Final Fantasy because of the job system. You can have Bartz, Lena, Ferris, or Galuf. You could set them to whatever you want to set them to.
I
I'm
mean, we're on the stream where I can say anything, right?
gonna say anything.
So one of the reasons why I think I can give 5 just a little edge above 2 sometimes is when I think, you know what? I'm going to self-insert into this game. I'm going to call the main character Justin instead of Bart's. I like Final Fantasy V more.
Mm-hmm. What did you? Okay, I want to ask you. What did you think of the story of 5 compared to the other games?
Oh, I can't remember it.
You don't even remember. Okay.
I mean, I remember different events. Like I remember I don't remember her name, but the pirate girl.
Ferris.
I just remember Ferris. Thank you. You know, coming out of the cave, and there she is on her ship, stopping you.
Yep.
And she's really intimidating at first, but then when she becomes a party member, she's so cool, and she's kind of lightning-based character at first. I think those are her black magic spells, is lightning. So I remember little things like that, and the battle on the bridge, big bridge, is probably like the most memorable part of the end game. Not even the final boss.
That's
there
right,
it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Like, yeah, like with when I did my Wheel of Time streams, I play this. They're like, wow, this is a great intro. This is a great intro piece. I'm like, yeah, nice. I mean, it showcases a battle that, you know, could go both ways. You know, you could be victorious, but yet things could go wrong at the same time. And I thought this was the perfect thing. But this part was so memorable. Fighting on the bridge, trying to get to X-Def's castle. I like how like the game was really a slow burn at the beginning, because you're just like you're going from palace to palace. And you're like, who's the boss? Like, what's going on here? The story itself got kind of boring, but once all the crystals get destroyed and X-Def gets released, and then that's when shit starts to hit the fan. And like the world, there's another world. You're like, there's another world other than this, and then you go to the other world. He has a castle, and then you find out that, you know, your party's parents fought him years ago and sealed him in the first place, and everything. So, I mean, which is also a Wheel of Time thing. Back in the day, the main villains back thousands of years ago were sealed, and were sealed for years until they were released by the seals in that case. So yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, you know, the like Final Fantasy and Wheel of Time kind of drew from similar stories. I don't know, but
Tales of Fantasia does a very similar storyline. Just that game unfortunately kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know you're a big Tales of Symphonia, and I've never played a Tales game, so I can't really comment on it. But
One day you might. It's okay.
But I think you said it's your favorite JRPG. It's a Tales game?
Well, I mean, technically, Paper Mario would be the favorite, but for a traditional JRPG, I guess Symphonia would be number one.
So, you know, I know you gotta get going and all that, but maybe we could say Breath of the Wild for the sequel to Chillporeal. Yeah. So, is there anything you want to tell me? Is there like a hook to link us to the next stream? Are you my father's brother's sister's cousin's former roommate or something? What's
I don't think I have that many people mad at me for disappearing in their lives, so no, I'm not that. I didn't go out to get the milk one day and never returned. No. You know what? It was fun kind of reminiscing about a lot of things, and I appreciate the fact that even though you've got such a wide spread of interests with media, I like my movies and stuff too. I'm not as much into like stereotypical geeky subculture. Like, I've dabbled in Dungeons and Dragons. I've watched a bit of sci-fi, but I'd be a little bit out of my element as far as like what I've experienced. So I appreciate you keeping it gaming centric. So if people want more focus on more video games, and we can take it in any direction, you and I. People want us to talk about music or stories or mechanics or whatever, we can handle that. We're good.
So, but yeah, man, thanks for doing this. Thanks for joining me doing this. Is there anything you want to promote? Do you have any videos gonna upload? Are you doing any streams with anybody? What's going on with your channel? Promote, man, promote.
Okay. Thank you very much. The platform is mine as I take it. All right, so on my channel, what I just wrapped up with was quite a bit of fun. It was one of those food for thought videos that we talked about a little bit, where I have these ideas about the video game industry and what's kind of going on with the people, how the people are concerned. And so I talked about the modern gaming experience. that's one way that you can dive into the channel. I'm slowly chipping away at the Zelda series so we can talk more about it, and so that I can present my mainline Zelda rankings. And if you like those long form videos, I've done Final Fantasy and I've done Pokemon, and there will be more to come. And other than that, I'm trying to play a lot of games so I can make a lot more videos. But there's some interesting topics that I'd like to dive into. So if at some point you're ever curious about, are we actually paying more for games today, and price comparisons between now and the past, I'm going to be looking at inflation. I'm going to be looking at how far the dollar back then took you compared to the dollar today. And I already know some stuff about that from outside of gaming. I could go on and on, but the point is, I've got a variety channel, so if you're interested in all kinds of things
you froze again.
we talked about today, check it out. And thank you very much for inviting me. Of course, when I'm thanking you.
No problem, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me, though. And you know what? I didn't get to see on my chat pop out how many people were here, but I saw that the chat was just constantly going today. So thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched, and it was fun reading your comments as well.
Yeah, thank you everybody for showing up and listening to us talk and having a good time. I mean, I definitely want to do this again. This was a lot of fun.
I'm sorry for blabbing. I'm like this.
This is. I mean, this is about the guest. This is not for me. This is me. This is giving me a chance to listen to a guest talk about whatever they want to talk about. So, and
fair enough.
And like I said, I love your content. I mean, I don't always agree with it, but I like to hear your takes, and it makes me think twice about my own viewpoints and all that. And I like to meet people halfway. So, you know what's the thing that we will do next time that we have to do? We gotta talk Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So that's gonna be something for next time. So, but yeah, so Wheel of Time Book Club is gonna resume on Sunday, part 2. I might still use the theme. I don't know yet. I might change it. I've used you know what the other big theme I used for earlier stuff was? I used the Ahead on Our Way theme, the intro, the very first thing you hear when you turn on the game,
Oh, in which game? Sorry.
Final Fantasy V. Ahead on Our Way.
You hear in 5.
The track is called Ahead on Our Way. It's the very first thing. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Oh.
That thing.
Oh, okay, that theme. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very adventurous. Love it.
So, Brian, before we hang up here, one more question I wanted to get out, because when you mentioned the 5 remix, do you like these kind of speedy video game remixes? Like if you think of like fast JRPG battle themes and things like that?
What like what we were just listening to?
A little bit of what we just listened to, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's faithful, as long as I feel it's faithful. Like I've heard remixes that they add stuff. And I hear stuff I don't recognize. There's several bars where I'm like, what are they playing? Oh, and then they build up to it. I'm just like, just play the darn thing. Just play the thing. I don't want to hear your extra stuff that you want to add to it. Just play it, maybe play it slightly differently, but it has to be familiar.
Right. Okay.
Other than that's a turnoff. Like what Pontus composed for what I was just playing, that's faithful. Like,
yes.
Like I like it. Like it adds enough to make it still be familiar.
And it was more like a cover than a remix, almost.
Yeah, more of a cover. Okay, cover remix. Again,
no, but I'm not that it necessarily was a cover, but there's kind of the familiarity. It's like when you hear the song, you'll know what it is being played.
Yeah, so maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm more of a cover guy. I'm cover.
Yeah. So. And did you like Final Fantasy 1's music?
Oh yeah, da 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 da. Montoya's cave theme. Come on, that's where it's at. Da 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 da.
What about when you get your party wipe, the game over thing?
I forgot that one. I'll have to listen to that one.
All right. Well, all of this leading up to me eventually linking you that game over theme, metal remix, metal.
Oh really?
It's so good.
You have to send me the link after this.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for entertaining me.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Everybody, once again, the link is is tagged, pinned on top. Subscribe to Legend of Leo. Let's get him to 600 sub sandwiches. And everybody, thanks for being here, and Have a good night. And before we get to the outro, let's see who's on the next episode of Chillporeal.